Somehow it's getting towards the end of the year already, so I just wanted to make this video to kind of document my creation workflow from what tech I'm using, what softwares and apps I'm using, and more importantly, how I'm using them. So I'll be walking through me making one of my actual tech videos from picking the idea to actually posting it. Although there always is the good old pen and paper option, almost 100% of my work, including the planning, is done on my laptop here, which is the overkill M4 Max MacBook Pro. Now, in terms of apps that you can use for planning, I feel like I've used almost all of them, especially Milanote and Notion, because every creator I watched use Notion, so I assumed it was the best. But this app here is not Notion, and it's actually called Craft. About a month ago, Craft actually reached out to me seeing if I wanted to try it. So I did, and given the fact, if you look at my dock here, Craft is there and no other app is, I think you can assume how that went. And I'm also happy to say that Craft is actually sponsoring this video. And if you take a look here, you can see that Craft is the heart of my planning. These are all of my ideas that I plan on making videos of, and I put this together using the collection feature. For every entry, it's a new video idea, and then I have things like the status of it. I have if it's a long form or short form. I have the kind of category that it falls under. Now, coming from Notion, it was actually pretty easy since Craft has an import from Notion feature, so all of your documents just transfer over, although they do look pretty boring right off the bat. So like this is what it used to look like. You can do a solid color, you can upload your own images, or I just prefer the gradient. So within each of these entries, I make a document inside of it, which is nice because it just keeps everything organized under one section. And the video I'll be making throughout this video is the 5 things that surprised me most about my iPhone 17. But once I have the idea set, where I always start is the ideation tab. And this I use just as a complete brain dump. I write any and everything down. There's things like title ideas, thumbnail ideas, obviously like the main talking points I want to make. And even if I get like a good idea for a shot, but I don't know exactly where it fits in yet, I just put it down in here. So if I close that up, I have the packaging section under it, which is things like your title and thumbnail. You can make the best video ever, but if your title and thumbnail are bad, no one's gonna click on it, which means no one's gonna know that it's good. Sometimes it can be hard to come up with ideas, so I actually made a separate doc here and have it just a bunch of general resources, like things like video formats that look good, title formats that perform good, thumbnail ideas, intro tips. Now the next part of the planning process definitely doesn't look it yet, but it becomes the biggest part, and that is the script. I hate word for word scripts, so that is not what I'm doing here. Like as a viewer, I love watching videos that kind of just feel conversational, so naturally as a creator, I want my videos to feel that way as well. As you can see here with the formatting in my template, I write bullet points. Sometimes they're complete sentences, sometimes they're not, and I almost always just paraphrase it while I'm actually recording anyways. So the first step is setting out all the different sections I want throughout the video, and then I head over to the mess of the ideation section and take what's actually usable there and add to it with any other information I need for the video. Okay, I think that's a pretty good starting point. I might go over it again, but what I did want to mention is they have baked in AI assistants, including Apple Intelligence works here. And also if you click /assistant, it brings up a lot of the similar options just to help you write better. So if you're ever like me and you write something and you read it so many times that you can't even tell if it's proper grammar or not anymore, this stuff can come in handy. And I think I even saw you can do Apple's image playground or whatever they call it. I've never actually used this, so let's figure this out. Wow, that is beautiful. It's a bear in a top hat. It's pretty cool. Now, the only other thing that I sometimes do here is if I want any of these lines to be a voiceover, I use the highlight tool and make it purple. That's just my color of choice. And once that's done, I go through each section and choose a camera angle and focal length that I want for the A roll. And I also add if I want like a second angle, which sometimes I like to do for something like an unboxing, or if I want to be screen recording to show what's on my screen, like what I'm doing right now. Now, although I do try to make myself talking just as interesting as possible, no one wants to see me for a full video. That and people also want to see visuals of what I'm talking about. And that's where shot listing B-roll comes into play. Now, how I usually do this is I find the line I want, like this one talking about trading in my iPhone 11, and I again use Craft's task list feature. So for this, I'm thinking a close-up of the iPhone 11, maybe on top of original box. And the final thing I do is color code the shot. I'm gonna make this one yellow. I usually color code based off of location. So yellow is my desk back there, blue is this table here. Once that's done though, we're on to the more exciting parts. I'm about ready to move on. Now it's the next day, which is the recording day. I have the whole thing just pulled up on my iPad here. Craft syncs very well with any other devices, so that's a huge plus. But in terms of recording, this is where we get into a ton of the fun tech, at least for me. And the first category is lighting. I have one big main light with a softbox and then two smaller lights. And probably my favorite part are the cameras. I'm recording on the amazing Sony FX3, which is a popular choice, and I have it with the Sigma 24-70 lens. Again, another very popular choice. And then I have this a little bit older Sony a6500, which sometimes I use as a second angle. And of course, I have my new iPhone 17, which if I ever need a little pickup shot, I'm probably gonna opt for this, as well as using the cinematic mode on it because that gets a pretty solid image. Next is probably what's most boring to me, which is audio. But tell me what's more watchable here. Bad quality audio with good quality video, or bad quality video with good quality audio. I know what my answer is. Audio is important. I like to use these Rode Wireless Pros. Now, what would really suck is if you go to record a video and something like your camera's batteries are dead, so now you gotta waste time waiting for them to charge, which is why I always write it down on some sort of to-do list to check that. But one way you can do that is using Craft's daily task list. So I can just hop over to the calendar and see that today I have format SD cards and charge batteries on there. And actually on my phone's lock screen, I have a widget that automatically adds a new task for the day. But assuming I'm reading this correctly, another task I have for today is to actually record the video. So let's do that. First part that I always record is the A-roll, or the talking directly to the camera part. And as far as the setup, I have my main camera. I have one light to light my face, then another light to kind of just accent the side of my face. I find it makes a pretty nice image. Now, this is the only part of this entire process that people actually see. So, everything leads up to this point. There's no pressure at all. I just gotta perform exactly to what I had in mind. Okay, so I just finished recording and that was not bad at all. That might have been the simplest video I ever made, but now it's time for the voiceover. Well, kind of, because there's actually no voiceover needed for that video, but I still think this is worth showing. This is my desktop setup. This is the reason why I record my voiceovers up here. This is the Shure SM7B, especially for something like voiceovers. If I switch between my regular lavalier mic and the Shure SM7B mic, you can tell it is very crispy. And I have that plugged into a Go XLR that actually one of the creators I used to work for, Craft, sent to me. So thank you, Creek. And talking about Craft, that's a good time to segue into, you can actually use Craft on Windows as well. But it's time to get back into it because we are not done recording. Now, as far as using my glorious FX3, I only have two things left for it to do. One is get the thumbnail frames, and two is record all of the B-roll, which is what I'm gonna start with. And at this stage, I can kind of just pop in an AirPod, and we already did all of the thinking in the planning stage, so I can kind of just shut off my brain and get the work done. So at some point during the B-roll process is usually when the same or similar frame that I'm thinking to use for the thumbnail comes up, and that is another reason why I love the FX3. It's a video-focused camera, but it still has the ability to take pretty good pictures. And since thumbnails end up being pretty small, I do try to get as many close-ups as possible and also kind of nice colors in the background. And in an effort to not need to break out all of my gear again later, I do try to get as many frames as possible now to work with later. Now
I actually surprisingly find myself using my iPhone for little pickup B-roll shots more than I thought. It's obviously not as good as my regular camera, but it's very convenient, and especially with the cinematic mode, I find the quality holds up pretty well.
Okay, so yesterday I finished recording all of the B-roll, which means today is the edit day, and I think that's where like most of the character of your video is actually developed. Now, as far as tech, like I mentioned, this is my M4 Max MacBook Pro. So it's safe to say that this definitely crushes a mere YouTube edit like this. And in terms of the editing software, I am using Final Cut Pro currently. This might be kind of a hot take, but I'm actually just editing off of my Magic Trackpad. I find it to be really smooth, but I do also have this Logitech vertical mouse that sometimes I do switch to. And the sleeper pick for tech here are these SimGot EW200s for audio. They're surprisingly affordable. They sound very good, and for something like editing audio, they're fantastic. So when I finished recording yesterday, the first thing I did was offload all the footage into my kind of template folder here. And then I brought that all into Final Cut Pro. And again, for something like editing the B-roll, it's like I already did all the thinking ahead of time. So these two shots here in Final Cut are these two shots here. And it's as simple as that to line it up.
And for the B-roll clips while I'm editing, I follow the same exact color code as the shot list in my craft doc.
Now, some editing things that I just like to keep in mind. One is just keep it simple. I think what I'm saying should be the focus, so all edits should just be enhancing that and making it more clear, not distracting it with like crazy animations. That's just not really my style. And a big one is edit from the viewer's perspective, because if you're bored watching it, they probably are too. Now, sometimes there's like a little edit that takes like 20, 30 minutes, and it's like a 3-second clip. That actually just happened to me. But I mean, I thought it turned out pretty good, so I do think sometimes sacrificing your time for just doing something cool is worth it. And no matter what, it never fails. Whenever I'm working on a video, something always goes wrong or something changes. If you look at this section here, I have a screen recording going for my phone. Now, if I actually extend this out, you can actually see here, that was my second time recording that part of the video because somebody forgot to turn on the screen recording the first. It was me. So like there's almost always some sort of element of needing to adapt. And I actually think that's pretty fun because a viewer can watch this and they would have no clue anything went wrong. And that's the power of editing. In a way, I'm manipulating everyone. I am quite an evil person. No, oh no, there goes my future sponsorships. And after that, we're almost completely done here. We only have the thumbnail left. Like I said earlier, thumbnails are incredibly important, and the software I've been making mine in is called Affinity Photo. So I have a lot of different frames here to choose from. I usually start by picking my favorite 5, and once I have all of them in Affinity Photo, then I start adjusting them. Now I keep my thumbnails very simple. Sometimes I add some text. I usually adjust the brightness and contrast, and at most an arrow, and that is it. And then once I finish the thumbnails, I go to a website called thumbsup.tv and I match my thumbnails with my title ideas. And this is a great way just to visually see what it could look like on YouTube. Like I've had thumbnails and titles that I loved, but once I actually saw it, I'm like, oh, that's mediocre at best. But first I actually got to finish these up. And kind of with the posting stage, I also have a document which I like to write down any of my findings, whether it's something from my recording process, editing process, thumbnail, or even just like a comment I read in one of my videos. And I also think that's why it's cool to make a video like this, because I'm just documenting how I'm doing things at this moment in time. Maybe in a few years I can look back and be like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But, you know, at least for now, I upload the video, select the best title, set up the thumbnails, and I usually like to write up a basic description and paste any links I need in there. And then finally, I schedule the video for typically the next morning. So the last thing I do is mark the video completed in Craft, and then try to respond to all the comments when the video goes live. And if you want to give Craft a try yourself, they have a very capable free version, but they're also offering a 50% for life discount if you subscribe using my code in the description, which I think that's pretty awesome. Again, thank you to Craft for being the first ever sponsor on this channel, and if you want to follow along for my creator journey or more tech videos, feel free to subscribe, and thank you for watching.